NFL Nightmare. This would be episode 2. We have the Dallas Cowboys on this one. This one is going to be called The Enemy from Within. Because that's what the Cowboys Nightmare is. It's not even so much the failed success in the postseason, or the fails in the postseason and the regular season success. It's not even about that. It's not even about that they're talked about so much on TV, even though we will get into that. It's about how this team is driven by ego, or lack thereof, in times. Because the players have had their ego, don't get me wrong. Everyone wants to say, our players leave their egos at the door. Everyone wants to say that. But let me tell you this. This video is going to be mostly about the Jones family, more than the players. Because we've mentioned the Cowboys players a lot on the show over the years. But I wanted to talk about how ego got them where they are, and how they could fix it if they do this, or if they're allowing themselves to do this. I have a couple situations that transpired that ego got in the way of either this situation, this player, or even when this point that you're having, how their ego jumps in and gets involved. Let's start with the most recent one, which is Micah Person. If you watch this channel for any length of time, we've mentioned this constantly. And last year we said he's not going to get traded, it's not going to happen, and then he gets traded. We said, how on earth did the Cowboys make that choice? Why did they make that choice? And I'm going to give you a little bit of the behind the scenes news of what happened. Behind the scenes is very simple. Jerry Jones met with Micah Parsons 3 times over the course of last March, and thought him and Parsons hammered out a deal that they both agreed to that would make Parsons the highest paid defensive player and highest paid player ever. On that on the defensive side, the highest paid player ever. It was going to make him one of the had the longest tenured contract, one of the longest tenured deals, guaranteed money that would be crazy. And they agreed upon, except one person did not agree. David Micah, the agent of Micah Parsons. He was not involved in this negotiation because, according to the NFL CBA, in the CBA that the NFL and the NFLPA agreed upon, you don't have to talk to the agent. You can talk to the player until the player says, talk to my agent. Then you have to. Then you have to cut the negotiation off the player and go directly to the agent. But if Micah did not do that, then the Joneses were allowed to do this. Jerry Jones was allowed to do this. He does not break any law in doing it. If Jerry and Micah had this conversation and Micah said, Jerry, talk to my agent, and Jerry did not let it go, and Jerry kept talking to Micah, then it would have been illegal. But I don't think Micah ever said that. Well, what I do know for a fact is that the deal was pretty much agreed upon via handshake, nothing in writing. And then after talking to Micah, Parsons said no to the deal. He wasn't going to take that deal. That hurt the Joneses, and I think it hurt Jerry Jones' ego a lot. And then over the course of the next couple months, they had conversations, but the relationship was severely damaged. And then they got to last year, near August, they were in Oxnard, California, and almost on the way back. And then, something thought could have been happening there, and it didn't. They fly back. nothing's going on, and then just up and down one day, here he is, he's getting traded. I think that I don't know if he would have gotten a deal done in August or in any of those months previous after what happened in March. That's what I'm trying to say. I think when that happened in March, there was no way a deal was going to get done. The fact that the Cowboys didn't trade him prior to the draft, where they could have gotten the most for him, didn't make a lot of sense either. So it's on both sides. But that's one of the reasons that, or one of the times that Jerry Jones and the Joneses' ego got severely damaged. Another one was Amari Cooper. I don't know if you guys remember this. This is during the COVID year, which feels so long ago. Jerry and Steven and all people involved in that front office were not happy with Amari Cooper for a couple of reasons. In fact, 3 reasons. One, he wasn't going to get his vaccine to play during the COVID year. He didn't want it. That Jones had asked him, told him to get it, and he wouldn't do it. That was one. The second thing was and I think this really hurt his relationship with Mike McCarthy mostly, was Amari Cooper oftentimes got hurt during the course of the year and wouldn't practice. Would practice on Friday, but wouldn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. McCarthy was a big component of, if you don't practice Wednesday and Thursday, and then you only practice Friday or only practice Saturday, you were not going to play Sunday. That was a big component of his. Amari would not practice Wednesday or Thursday, and sometimes he wouldn't practice Friday, but he would practice Saturday when it was a walkthrough, and he would play. I think that bothered the Joneses, and I think that bothered McCarthy mostly. He was the third thing, and the Joneses felt this way too, and it's understandable. You can understand it, what they were talking about, or thinking about, I should say. When Amari Cooper wouldn't get the ball, the Joneses felt that he would go from 100% on every play to 80, because he knew he wasn't going to get the football, so why run so hard? Why try to do the extra effort if I'm not going to get the football? Which, it's very common for wide receivers to do that. But the Joneses did not like that. So that was 1, 2, and 3 reasons of why the Joneses did not like it. And I remember it was March and they traded him. I remember they got nothing for him because they had said they were going to cut him. The fact that even the Browns came calling, I think they were just waiting for the phone to ring one time. Didn't even have to ring a second time. Just the one time they were going to pick it up. Like it was probably in their hands. They were just holding it around for a month and waiting for someone to call. And then they finally picked it up when someone actually rang. That's what they did. And I can get that one. That one, I guess. I guess I can figure out. But it really starts from that perspective. The way they conduct contract negotiations. I'm not just talking franchise tags, where they wait till the end before the tag deadline hits. Then they just give the player all he wants, everything he wants. They do the same thing with big-time contracts with their big-time players. They were going to do it with Micah Parsons last year, and then it fell apart, even though that deal was supposed to be done in March. The first time they signed Dak to a contract, they waited to the end of that franchise tag deadline to do it. And I mean, not the end, but they missed it on the first time. They got it done in March of the following year. DeMarcus Lawrence, they waited to the end. They've done that before. They've done this before countless times where they wait. But when you're on their final years of their deal, they have 1 year left. They want a contract negotiation. The Joneses will say, "No, we'll talk to him in August. And they'll wait. They can make contract moves in February. You can restructure contracts in February. You can sign new contracts in March. You can even date contracts that Well, you can have them do a contract in February. Just predate it for March. You can do that too. The Joneses don't do that. They just wait. They try to wait it out as long as they can, and then they just give you the contract that you want. They did this with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, not this past year, but the year before that. Remember, they played Cleveland, and CeeDee Lamb got a contract, and then a week later, Dak got a contract. But the reason that happened is they waited. Had they just done the deal in March or April and not waited till August, the deal would have been done. They wouldn't have had to worry. But they waited so long just to give them everything they wanted. They've done that countless times. That is just the way they deal with their contract negotiations. And for what? Ego, the way the media talks about them. The media talks about them so much, they just let things drag along. If they know the media is going to talk about them every hour. First Take talks about them every hour. There's a 15-minute segment of the Cowboys, just like there was today. What are they going to do with George Pickens? It's easy what they're going to do. They're going to franchise him. They're going to franchise tag him. They'll try to get a long-term deal done, either before free agency, which I wouldn't hold my breath for that. But they'll get a long-term deal done, but they'll franchise tag him. They won't let him get to the market. That's what they'll do. But it's bad policies of what they're trying to do. Their free agency is terrible. Their drafting has not been great in recent years. But they don't do anything in free agency. I remember, what was it, 2 years ago, they said, don't call us, we'll call you. Or vice versa, that call us. Like, it made no sense. It's like, no, you're the owners, you gotta call them. Why are you saying, no, we won't call you, you have to call us? It makes no sense to them. It was like a reverse, don't call us, we'll call you. It was the reverse of it. It made no sense. This all started back with Jimmy Johnson. 1993-94 season. Cowboys win their second Super Bowl. And Jimmy part ways. Jimmy leaves the Cowboys. After that, the Cowboys win another Super Bowl. Barry Switzer in 95, 96. 95, 96 year. But they haven't been back since. And now you can say, well, that was Jimmy's guys, which is the problem. Jerry hated the fact that every time you talked about it and about the Cowboys, it was referenced as Jimmy's guys, Jimmy's players, not Jerry's players, not the Cowboys players, Jimmy's players. And because of that, it bothered. If you haven't read the book already, you can order it. And I encourage you that you read it. It's Jimmy Johnson's book, Swagger. He talks about this relationship a little bit. Not a whole lot. But he does say that I can't remember who the celebrity was, but they played a game. And I don't even remember if they won or lost the game. I don't even remember that. What I remember is Jimmy's talking to his players before the media gets into the locker room. And Jerry Jones walks in with a celebrity into the locker room. And Jimmy's like, why are you here? I'm talking to my players. I think it showed Jimmy at the time that Jerry was just doing this more. Like, he obviously cares about football. Don't get it twisted. But it showed that in Jimmy's mind that he wasn't just completely dedicated with just winning. He had to have celebrities and this and that and more glitz and glamour and more sizzle than steak, whatever term you want to use. And that showed Jimmy. And that's what led to the rift, was Jerry wanted the control and the ability to say, I was making the choices. It was me. And Jimmy just wanted to be able to coach his team the way he wanted to do it. and didn't want someone to overreach, which is what Jerry was doing. It also talks about in the book that he didn't stay at a job for more than 5 years, which is true. We go back, even in Dallas, 5 years. That's how long he was there. So I encourage you to read it. It's actually, I'm not a book person. I don't like reading books, especially like philosophy books. But it was very interesting to me. I liked it. But is this an NFL? The answer is yes. What we should talk about more in the series is how a team could correct an NFL nightmare. We didn't do it so much in the last video. I want to try this here, and we'll see how you guys like it. Which is, if they make this one subtle change, if they make this change, if they do this or they do that, would that change the nightmare? Could that make it not a nightmare anymore? And I think for the Cowboys, they're in the process of doing that. Not because they've won more games, not because I'm going to say they are going to win more games. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is they made a splash move bringing in Quinn and Will. They did with George Pickens, which that was kind of big-ish, but Quinn was a big move midway through the year. They hadn't done that move in a while. They hadn't done that really since Deion. So if Deion Sanders is the last time they did it, this was a good type move. But they also can't stop here. You can't just say, okay, we made our one move, now we're good for 15 years. You can't do that. So what you have to do, and kind of what I found is interesting, is when they did this defensive coaching staff, how that was handled. Mostly it was the Joneses in years past that have done this. This year it was Brian Schottenheimer, the head coach, who did it. Not because they didn't want to just saddle him with somebody. Because they've done that. Former head coaches, guys who have skins on the wall. They didn't do that. They did that. They just said, Brian, you go pick the guys you want. Which the guys they've hired, young coaches, college coaching backgrounds. And I want to just name a couple. The Christian Parker, they hire him. He's 34, but he worked for Vic Fangio. And it was known that if Fangio retired, that he would be on a very short list to getting the job. Anyways, that Fangio was at that current time. In this case, the Eagles. So that's good to know. I'm not saying that means he should get that he knows exactly everything he's got to do. I'm just saying that's good to know. That means, okay, he knows enough of what he's doing, even though he has never called plays, never been in this role before. They hired the defensive coordinator from SMU. I believe his last name is Simon, but I might have the pronunciation wrong. He's going to be the middle linebackers coach. They hired the outside linebackers coach from the University of Georgia. This defensive coaching staff, the oldest guy is 44. Derek Ainsley. That's it. He's 44. Everybody else is young. They're younger than that. Some of them are in their 30s. Dixon, who's the defensive line coach, came over from the Vikings. He's 41. He's the second oldest. Everybody's very young. And this was started because of Brian Schottenheimer's success of when he picked the offensive coaching staff last year and hired all these young coaches in roles that they had either never been before or never had to call the plays or never they have just been assistants but are looking for an opportunity. And it worked. Or they were at that position but at a college level. They did the same thing here. It paid off for them on offense. Why don't you give it a chance on defense? That's what they were doing. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying that. But the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again, the same exact way, and expecting a different result. The Cowboys changing this is a step in the right direction. Because if it doesn't work, you said, okay, now that's one way. We found the first way that didn't work. Now we found a second way that didn't work. But there is ways to keep trying. With the Cowboys, that's what they're doing. Maybe they are willing to, if they took that step, maybe they are willing to say, all right, let's try making a little bit more moves in free agency. Let's try to make a little bit more moves. You don't have to go crazy, but I'm just saying, try to build half of this defense in free agency instead of trying to build the entire defense in the draft and then, oh no, we're out of players. Let's go get some free agents now. Don't do that. Go sign some free agents. Try to build a good half or 3/4 of this defense, and then go and try to draft some. Do that. Even if you're saying, well, we're just going to get some band-aids for now in free agency, but in the draft, we're going to get more permanent fixes. You can do that too. But figure something out. Have a game plan. They never seem to have one. That's really what it is. It's an ego thing. Because as bad as they've been in free agency, they believe all the time that they have a chance to go win the Super Bowl or go far in the playoffs with the roster that they have, with limited acquisitions that they get. And then are surprised by the fact that they don't get as far as they want because they don't make the moves. Maybe it's time to say, okay, we've tried from 2014. This has been Stephen Jones' job, and it hasn't worked. Maybe we should try something else. Because at least if we're trying something else, it's something else. It's the mystery box. Might be a boat. It might be a card. It might be a house of cards. You don't know. But it might be a boat. That's the best way to explain it. NFL World. I'm Jacob Hewitt.